if a meeting with the Old Bloods, someone tried to kill Makoto, that would completely throw off that plan. So maybe they are trying to kill Makoto. I don't know, Morgan. Because I'm not an old guard. Is there someone we could talk to who is? There's always someone. For a price. But if that's how it's going to go, I'm going to need a drink first. Seems very interesting that we're apparently going to lean into investigating this. Here to join? What are you talking about? Sorry to disappoint, but I was here first. The net's slow as shit in this wing of the school. No one else comes here if they don't need to, so it's a quiet spot to read. Yeah, it is a detective mystery. So what? Like 5% of the books in the library are. Well, it's not like I own the room. If you want to convene your club meetings here with all your many members, I can't exactly sue you. Especially not since you're going to be some big shot lawyer. Join your club so I won't get evicted? Isn't that like blackmail, counselor? Mutually beneficial, sure, so it's just plain old corruption. You'll do just fine out there in the adult world. Whatever, as long as you don't go around telling people I'm a member, you can put me down. We need to add our phone numbers too? No, I don't actually care. She's being haunted by her past at the moment. It's not that she wanted to be a detective, but a detective club? At like secondary school level? Seems very odd. Is something wrong? Why would you think there's something's wrong? It's very unusual for you to wake up mid-transit. Yes, so she is dreaming. When you decide to nap, you fall asleep very fast and you sleep very deeply. Suspiciously so. Sometimes I'll try to wake you and I could swear you're just pretending. I've no idea what you're talking about. No. Besides, you're the one who's been quiet. I had been bothering Sasuke, I think. Pestering him about catching bullets. If you were bothering Sasuke, he'd say it. Turn to the side in that bitchy pose of his. I know the exact pose she means. But I can't catch a bullet either. Even though I'm fast, and I can see fast. Sasuke was the one who acted while I just... Sasuke's trained for that exact kind of thing. Trained for his whole life, the way he tells it. Father built me to be strong. I should be able to... David didn't build you to be anything, Sarah. He didn't even really build you. Just watched you grow. And do you think I'm still growing? Still developing? You think I could get taller? I think you shouldn't get your hopes up about that. Come on, you can bounce back faster than that. I'm sorry. I suppose I'm still processing what we saw back in the courtroom. When Detective London took out that shooter? I know that Detective London has been a police officer for many years. It stands to reason he'd act decisively in circumstances where so many lives are at risk. What I'm still thinking about is the man he killed. Yeah, but there's only so much speculating we can do about his motive until... I'm not thinking about his motive. I'm thinking about how he is dead. You haven't been out and about that long. Everything's new to you, even the most ordinary stuff. Guess I forgot that includes the extraordinary too. You've seen violence like that before then? Yes, I have. Seen people die? Yes, I have. Seen more people die than most your age? Most lawyers? Probably a safe bet. Can hear Morgan's heartbeat because she's getting a bit too close to the truth. This is a private subject, isn't it? Death is always private. I'm no exception. Do people ever get used to it? I can only speak for myself. Have you gotten used to it? Every time is like the first time. I hope that everyone is like you then. It doesn't seem like the kind of thing anyone should get used to. Sorry to disappoint you then. There are no people like me. A thing that struck me about that conversation was how parenty Morgan was acting. You know? Like, she didn't shut Sarah down. She didn't ridicule her at all. It wasn't anything. It was just realizing something about her essentially adopted daughter and helping her through it a bit. Irashai. Irashai. I've forgotten his voice entirely. To what do I owe the pleasure of hosting my two favourite girls? One's Sarah, who's the other? Figment of my imagination, apparently. Do you want something to drink? What do you recommend? I've just got in this case of beautiful tawny deep reds from volcanic soil across the sea. Savoury and full with notes of cherry and oak. Sounds delicious. You just described a tree down to the dirt. Well, I would very much like to try it. Sorry, you're underage. She's an android. A very realistic one. What do you say to customers who walk in to see her drinking at the counter? Irashai? Two waters coming right up. Wait, back up. Your client is the Hound of Icaria? And I was the last person to find out what that actually means. Then it should be easy enough to tell whether he did the deed or not. The Hound always leaves a calling card. So I hear, is that literal? Stark white business card laid neatly on the ground with the house's insignia. I don't understand why the house would go to such lengths to let the victims know who attacked them. These neo-ability types, their whole lives are galas and boardrooms and cocktail parties and wine tastings. Torture. Where every sentence has a front and backside to it and every glance is a whole unspoken clause. To them, an unambiguous act of violence is an exclamation point that they can't misconstrue. And the Icaria aren't exactly at the top of the neo-ability pecking order. Reminding the others that they've still got their fangs is a viable strategy. They know they're outclassed in terms of how many mountains of gold they have. That doesn't explain why such a supposedly great assassin has gotten made on more than one occasion. Well, he's probably just doing his job there. If all he needed was to get away with murder, he'd be a poisoner or a sniper. All the major houses love to use body doubles. If he kills a target behind closed doors, their house can just bring out a spare. Or hell, claim the entire thing never happened. But if the Hound kills where a house's rivals can see, the damage sticks. You know a lot about the neo-ability, don't you, boss? Are you considered part of the neo-aristocracy? Do I look like I've got that kind of sway? I don't run a bar in Midtown as a hobby, kid. Wouldn't know it, looking at how profitable your wine section is. It'll catch on. The Hound was a nasty surprise, but the big reveal isn't making anything click for me. A Blueblood assassin trying to mist him mid-trial? I don't get it either, but the Bluebloods aren't as rational as they used to be. Used to be? I traded with them a good deal when I was younger, and they were richer. Traded what? Stock tips. Oh. This was before the Ikaria cut them down? And I was a young man hungry to establish myself, and the Bluebloods were the biggest game in town. The Rust weren't even a twinkle in some psychopunk's eye back then, and the Ikaria cartel were just that. Drug smugglers and dope runners. The Bluebloods used to use them as couriers. A reversal of fortune. Could be their names on opera houses and hospitals all across the city today if what? If the Ikaria hadn't killed them all. But didn't they have allies? Connections? The morgues were overflowing with cerulean blood. No one wanted anything to do with them. But they were the victims. Corporate partners are risk-averse. Political alliances require you to bring something to the table. And when you fall that far, that fast, the common folk assumed it happened for a reason. They thought the Bluebloods deserved it just because it happened to them? Oh, Sarah. All that was left were the old-timers, the grandparents and the great-uncles, all suddenly without heirs. They recruited latchkeys and orphans during the Red Decade, found family that became the first gens, and then the Youngbloods. What about the money? It's starting to sound like a real human. Some of it, the cash, the gold, the jewels, the Ikaria just stole. But the vast majority of it was held overseas where it was safe, untouchable, and impossible to get your hands on without the right blood. Locked behind GFA. Getting butchered by the Ikaria was a bad beating, but losing that money was unforgivable. The rest of the Blue Blood Mafia around the world will never accept them back into the fold until they recover it. Exiled from paradise because they tempted fate with their hubris. Has a certain poetic charm to it, no? It would have to be a very sobering poem. Those are the ones you remember, aren't they? Probably why the Blue Bloods are still humming the same old hymns, passing down the same ghost stories and urban legends. They did seem to be surprisingly superstitious bunch. Crossing their fingers over the red hood and... Hey, what's a little lord? That's another one. New spin on one of the oldest tales in the book. A promised prince. The belief that exactly one kid survived the fall of the leaves, one lone heir to all the fortune the Blue Bloods lost. Alright, I'm going to have to mention this because someone mentioned it, I believe, in the comments, and it's... yeah. it's a thought that I just can't quite get rid of now. What if Sasuke was the one survivor? You know, because, like, his whole family were massacred in retribution for the fall of the leaves, when it could just very easily be they almost missed one, but they didn't miss one, and they kept him as the final key. But I don't know why they would do that. Like... assuming he was just a child at the time, and I think he was like an infant or something at the time, they would have no reason to, because, you know, they could never use him to access it, and given how long it's been, you know, they've sort of had plenty of chances to. Surely if they were going to use him to access it, they would have done it when he was much, much younger, and therefore wouldn't have the ability and motive and all of these other things that might make him not want to do it. But it could be an interesting story twist, I just don't know how they'd explain it. The belief that exactly one kid survived the fall of the leaves, one lost heir to all the fortune the Blue Bloods lost. Got spirited away overseas or out west to be raised in secret, and one day he'll come back to reclaim what's rightfully... You know, I'm guessing you've heard this one before. Is there any truth to it? Old gods certainly seem to think so. Need to think so. It's probably what's keeping them alive. If they can just hold out another 5 years, they'll finally find the heir they've been looking for, and they can rectify decades of embarrassment and shame. Thinking like that is what makes Youngblood start talking about maybe the old guard don't care about what happens to us. What do they expect? Blood's thicker than water. The original full expression is thought to be the blood of the Covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. That actually suggests that camaraderie between those who fought together is stronger than simply sharing a common relative. Really? I didn't know that the actual meaning of it is sort of reversed from what people use it as. I mean, to be honest, that's the case with a lot of them. a lot of like idioms. My favourite one that is sort of constantly misused is the customer is always right, because I believe the full thing is the customer is always right in matters of taste. So it's not a case of if someone walks into your establishment, you have to do whatever the hell they want. It's that if you say, here, you might enjoy this drink, and they go, no, I want that drink. It's like, you are correct. You are always right in the matters, not just literal taste, but, when it comes to a matter of opinion, the customer is always right. But that doesn't mean you have to do whatever they say. That's how it's commonly misused. Anyway. Yeah, well, if that were actually true, then maybe people wouldn't have amputated the expression centuries ago. Still, this is 30 years of water or blood covenant, if you prefer, that we're talking about. Youngbloods would give their lives to the Mafia, each of them had to choose it over their own family. It's a pretty raw deal to cut them loose just because some sheltered kid, only valuable for his DNA, decided to show up after all these years. You think the old guard would throw away the Youngbloods if it meant reuniting with their little lord? I know it, and so do the Youngbloods. Ha! Ha! I don't understand why. Because surely they'll still need the people. Unless it's just a case of the Youngbloods are just keeping them going until they can get their money and be welcomed back into the fold. So it's not that they'd be choosing, like, the survivor over the Youngbloods, it's that they're choosing the entire rest of the Blueblood Mafia over the Youngbloods. I mean, this would... it would suddenly make a lot of pieces fall into place if Sasuke does happen to be the Little Lord. Because that's why they wanted him alive. That's why they didn't kill him at any of these points. But then why would they send an assassin to kill him? Why would the Old Bloods send an assassin to kill him now? That doesn't mesh at all with it. Because they'd still want him alive, That doesn't seem to be a dynamic that incentivizes them to look very hard for this little lord. No, it incentivizes them to smother the royal bastard. If I assume my client is innocent, that means someone else killed Tarek Chopin. Someone who didn't do it in self-defense. Tarek Chopin? You mean the son of the city councilman? Adopted son. It's weird that she keeps emphasizing that. His parents are government officials. Even if they're loaded, the Mob Act can't protect all their records. The Mob Act was a thing, it's been mentioned in the previous one, and it's a way for basically privacy for the rich and powerful. Summed up as, you can't eat the rich if you don't know where they live. Sarah, look this guy up. What do you want to know? Alright, fine, we'll start with the one she seems to be obsessed with. I want to know about his adoption. His fathers adopted him in 2066 after 3 months of visits to the Gospel Home Orphanages, a private philanthropic institution that is no longer in business. Bankrupt or bought out? Bankrupt. Damn it, if they'd just gotten swallowed, the parent company might have kept their records. The adoption itself was somewhat of an event. There are multiple news articles and photos of it. Not trying to cast doubt on the realness of their connection, but they wouldn't be career politicians if they let a photo op that good pass them by. Unless they wanted to draw attention away from who they were adopting and... No, a child showing up quietly in a politician's life looks guilty as sin. They wouldn't let people think. This isn't useful. I could go in circles all day speculating about this. I mean, is she trying to suggest that Chopin is the Little Lord? Because that doesn't make any degree of sense. Age? How old was he? His age is listed as 27, but the entry has been edited a number of times. There's been a great deal of back and forth between database contributors in the last 36 hours over the additional removal of an asterisk. It seems his original birth certificate was lost. Well, that's shady as hell. Only kinda. Here it comes. If he was an orphan 27 years ago, that's pretty firmly in the red decade. A lot of paperwork getting lost back then. That's a kind way of putting it. What would be an unkind way of putting it? The governments of the world were scrambling. Education? What was his education? Tarek Chopin had a law degree. Who gets a law degree and then becomes a patrol officer? Son of a politician. It's not a bad path. If your superiors know you're connected and smart and can recognize when the law is being broken, they'll keep you far away from anything real. You can coast for a year and then move into politics as a veteran of the force who's hard on crime. London did mention he was far too principled to be likeable or reliable. If joining up with the police was nothing but a calculated move, that means he had a clear plan for what to do after. That does cast him in a different light, or at least has the possibility of him being cast in a different light, because that suggests his sort of straight and narrowness could have been an act, which is the first hint we've really had that he was anything less than genuine. And it probably didn't involve defrauding the city in a real estate scheme. I can think of a few reasons why a cop would get murdered at the scene of a crime like that. But Tarek Chopin wasn't some ordinary cop. The strongest motive that comes to mind is... Wait, you really think... You think Chopin was the Little Lord? You're the last person I'd expect to believe in fairy tales, Red. And no, I don't... No, it doesn't make any sense. Like, there is no motive for killing him there. The only person who was there at the scene who would have any motive for that is Sasuke, who A, wouldn't have known, B, I'm fairly sure didn't do it. So, unless this is another one of her bait and switches, like making him out to be a crooked cop, and... Because she knows that Creek and the pod, who are the only ones there who might have had another motive, didn't kill him because they were dead. So, like, what is she trying to make? What is she thinking here? This does feel like it's not based on any real logic. It just seems to be like, well, I heard a fairy tale about this missing orphan, and here we have an orphan. Is that why she's been so fixated on him being adopted? This is weird. Can you honestly say it doesn't fit? Yes, in like 5 ways. If we for a moment assume that unicorns and dragons and Tsuchinokos are real... What do you mean? Tsuchinokos are very well documented, I can show you. Then yeah, it's possible that Chopin was the Little Lord. And if any young blood knew it, they'd want him dead. To prevent the old guard from abandoning them. Okay, alright. Okay, sorry. I have so many theories that are just tumbling over each other with every new bit of evidence. I'm sorry that I keep bringing them up, hope you don't mind. Right, 2 things that just occurred to me. One, it's possible that Rogers was in the Youngblood pocket, and therefore Rogers would have a motive to kill Chopin, beyond just the not playing ball. The other thing is, if... No, it was proven to work, I think. The mask was proven to be real. Yeah, the other thing was, if Creek's pod were tasked with capturing Sasuke, and Sasuke is the Little Lord, which it's kind of seeming more important now that they keep, throwing this quite obvious red herring of Chopin was the Little Lord. It does sort of hint that maybe he is real and that we are going to see him and that it's probably Sasuke. But if Sasuke was discovered to be, they would have discovered it at the meeting last year, presumably. So when they keep going for Makoto, they're actually going for Sasuke, which would explain why... And then they think he's just trying to get Makoto, because why would they go for Sasuke? But yeah, sorry. As in that's I'm blah 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 blah. Sorry. So if Creek's pod was sent to get Sasuke, which is suggested strongly by the needles provided to them, which are capable of taking out somebody with heavy modding, then that would mean that both the mask and Sasuke are at the location where a Blueblood huntsman from overseas is coming. And it again gets rid of a lot of the coincidence, why Creek's pod was trusted with this, because the intention was Creek's pod were always going to die, because the Old Bloods don't care about the Young Bloods, and Creek was a Young Blood. So instead, the Old Blood assassin comes over, gets the mask, gets Sasuke, and the Old Bloods have everything they want. They're back in good with the rest of the Blue Bloods, both because they have Sasuke, who would give them access to their money, and they have paid off the huntsman with the mask. However, in the bloody two sides of the triangle, doesn't explain why Rogers was there, or why Creek's pod cracked their guns, untagged their guns so that they could shoot. You know? Apparently no theory is perfect yet. 3 thoughts come to mind. 1, this is all guesswork on your part. Even the most zealous Youngblood wouldn't off a guy just because he happened to be about 30 years old and adopted. They would have had to have seen something that at least suggested it. 2, as I recall, the only Youngblood you know of is this Creek guy. And Creek was dead before Chopin ever entered the building. Clears his name pretty handily. The only Youngblood I know? 3, I can think of at least one of the group that are killed to prevent the Little Lord from reclaiming his throne. How's Sicaria? And who better to cut him down than the most loyal Rook? And that would neatly explain why the old guard would be pissed enough to try and kill Sasuke in a courtroom, unfortunately.